Hey there, I'm Louie, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to crochet a troll from our new Goblinoid pattern bundle. In the bundle you can find all the patterns behind our little troll here, as well as how to customize your Goblinoid with scars and weapons and rings and hair. But yeah, for this video we're going to be making the troll, and if you look down below you can find a discount code for the price you paid for this pattern off of the full bundle if you want to go over and grab that bundle. For this video you're going to need the following materials. I'm using all worsted weight yarn in white for the tooth, blue for the skin tone, and brown for the pants. I'm actually going to be making mine today with a loincloth instead of pants to show you how to make that, but I'll explain how to make the pants as well. And yeah, you also need a size G 4mm crochet hook because we're using worsted weight yarn. You'll need a darning needle to sew in all the ends, and some stuffing, and you might want some pipe cleaners to put in the arms so that you can shape them in any way that you want. Also you'll need some safety bead eyes. I use 6mm, I believe. But yeah, let's get hooking. I'm going to start by making the arms. So for the arms, I'm using our blue yarn here, and I'm going to start with a magic loop method. You can also use the chain 2 method if you're more comfortable with that, but I'm going to be using magic loop. And into the second chain from the hook, or into the magic loop, whichever one you use, we're going to single crochet 6 times into either the magic loop or the second chain from the hook. And this is going to get us started on the arm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right, now let's pull this guy a little tighter. Okay. All right. So this pattern is all worked in the round, meaning that you're not going to turn around for the entire pattern. Pretty much everything, except for the loincloth, you will have to turn around for. Okay, so for round 2 for the arms, we're going to be just working into this first stitch right there. We're going to do a single crochet into the first stitch. Once we get in there, there we go. You can work around this tail just to lock it into place for the first stitch or two. So we're going to do a single crochet into the first stitch and then an increase into the stitch afterwards right here. Okay, well, there we go. Now let's repeat that one more time. We'll do another single crochet and then an increase. Gotta be careful of your yarn splitting like it just did for me. Okay, now one more single crochet, and into this last stitch here we want to do a mini bobble stitch and a single crochet. For a mini bobble stitch we're going to yarn over, go into the stitch, yarn over again and pull a loop through, then yarn over a third time and pull through 2 loops on the hook like you're starting a double crochet. And you want to repeat that 3 times total. So let's repeat it 2 more times. We yarn over, go into the stitch, yarn over and pull through, then yarn over and pull through 2. There's our second repeat. Let's do one more. Yarn over, into the stitch, yarn over and pull through, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through 2. Okay, and that's what I call a mini bobble. To finish it up, we're going to yarn over and pull through all 4 loops on the hook. Okay, when it gets to the body, we're going to be making a slightly larger version of this for the feet. Okay, and then to finish up round 2 here, we want to do a last single crochet into the same stitch that you made that mini bobble into, like that. Okay, so that's going to be the end of round 2. You can see how we got a little thumb there. For round 3, we're just going to be doing a single crochet into each stitch around. There should be 9 stitches as you go around. Yeah, pretty nice and easy. We're just going to be single crocheting all the way around. Okay. Be careful when you get to that thumb. It's kind of hard to get into that stitch. Okay. It's going to be the end of round 3. For round 4, we're going to be decreasing down from 9 stitches to 6 stitches. To do that, we're going to single crochet into the first stitch right here. And then we're going to do what's called an invisible decrease into the next stitch. For an invisible decrease, we're going to take our hook and go into the front loops of the next 2 stitches. So we're going to go into that front loop. I like using my nail to kind of pry it open like that. 1 front loop and 2. Okay? Then we're going to do basically a single crochet into those 2 front loops. We're going to yarn over and pull through those 2 front loops, and then yarn over again and pull through the 2 loops. That's what we call an invisible decrease. And we're going to repeat that 3 times total. So let's do it again. We're going to single crochet in the first stitch, and then invisible decrease in the next. We're going into those front loops, using our nail to pry open those 2 front loops, and then doing a single crochet. Okay? And then finally, one more repeat. 1 single crochet, and then an invisible decrease by going to those 2 front loops. As it gets smaller here, it's easiest to just loosen up the loop like so, and then go into the stitch, into those 2 front loops, and then yarn over, pull through, and then pull both those tight, and that'll pull that second loop tighter. It'll make it a little bit easier for you. Okay, you can see it's kind of caving in on itself, so I'm kind of like pulling those stitches back out. Okay, so for our next 2 rounds, that was round 1, 2, 3, that was round 4, I think. For our next 2 rounds, we want to do a single crochet into each stitch around. So we're just doing a single crochet in each stitch around, and like before, it's a little small now, so you want to loosen up that yarn and then get your crochet hook into that next stitch. Yarn over, pull through, and then pull it slightly tighter, and then single crochet. And you want to do that into each stitch around. There should be 6 stitches around in each round. So you're going to do, basically you're doing 12 more single crochets as you go around. Okay? This is for our last 2 rounds here. And I actually use these arms for a lot of different characters, including my the orcs and as well as a bunch of little cartoon characters like gorillas and stuff like that. So now we're on our next round, just doing single crochets. You can tell where the end of the round is because you look for, when you come back around to the thumb, that's my easiest way to find where the end of the round is without counting stitches. Okay. All right. This is our last stitch right here. Okay. And to finish these arms up, we want to do a slip stitch into the next stitch. For a slip stitch, we're just going to go into that stitch, yarn over, and pull through both the loops. Okay? And we can cut the yarn. You want to leave somewhat of a long end so you can sew it onto the body easier, but you don't need it too long. And you can just pull it all the way through. Okay. Now you want to go ahead and make 2 of these arms before you get started on the body and stuff. All right. Next up, we're going to be making the lip, and the lip is crazy easy. We're just going to be making a slip knot, and you want to chain 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And you want to cut the yarn, leaving it somewhat long, like that's probably pretty good. Just enough so we can sew it onto the face. And we can just pull it all the way through like so. We're going to sew this onto the face when we get there. Next, we'll make the teeth. For the teeth, we're going to be using our white yarn here, and we want to make another slip knot. And I usually just add 1 tooth, but you can add 2 teeth if you want. And all you have to do is chain 2, 1 and 2. Pull that second chain a little bit tighter, then go into the back of the chain. So if you turn the chain around, you can see this loop right there. You want to take your crochet hook and get it into that back loop of the first chain that you made. and you want to just do a single crochet. Okay. And now to finish it up, we just cut the yarn. We'll chain one and just pull all the way through. And we'll sew this on over the lip once we've sewn the lip on. Okay, the last thing that I want to show you before we get to the face is how to crochet the nose. Now, when I get to the body, there's actually two ways that I like making my noses. The first way is by crocheting it separately and sewing it on, which looks like the one that I showed you right here. The second way is by doing a stitch called the spiked bobble stitch. So what I wanted to do in this video is I'm going to show you how to crochet it separately, just to sew it on if you want to, but I'm actually going to be doing the spiked bobble in this stitch, or in this pattern, and the reason that I'm going to be doing the spiked bobble is a couple things. One, I think it's a really cool stitch that I made up, and I just really like it, so I like to share it. And two, it's crazy easier. It saves us a bunch of time in the end because it's really annoying to sew on the nose. But it's kind of a really tough stitch to accomplish. So if you don't want to risk it and make the spiked bobble stitch, because it is pretty tough to do, then just crochet it separately, and I'll show you how to do that right now. Okay. So you want to use your blue yarn here, and you want to make a magic loop, and this is for the crocheted version of the nose. We're just going to be making a magic loop. You could probably use the chain 2 method here as well, but I think it's probably easier to use the magic loop. All right, and we're going to just single crochet 3 times into the second chain from the hook or the magic loop. Just 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now we can just tighten this up. Okay. And now you want to loosen this stitch up and work around, and we want to get into the back loop only, meaning the loop furthest away from us for the first stitch that we made. So here's our first stitch. You can see there's our last one. 1, 2, 3. We want to get into that back loop only of that first stitch. Okay, and into that back loop you want to do an increase. Okay, just take it slow. It's really hard to crochet this tiny. We're going to do an increase in that back loop. So I just finished 1 single crochet. Here's our second. Okay, and now we're going to be working into both loops now. So we worked in that back loop for the first one. Now you can see both loops here, and into both loops of the next 2 stitches, the last 2 stitches in this round, we want to just work a single crochet into each of them. Okay. So just 1 single crochet in the first one, loosen up our stitch, go into the second stitch, and just do another single crochet into that one. Okay, and that'll finish up round 2 for the nose. And to finish up the nose, we want to do a single crochet into the next stitch right here. Okay, and then a slip stitch into the last one right there. Just do 1 slip stitch. This will finish that crocheted nose up, and we can cut the yarn. You want it long enough so you can sew it onto the face when you get to there, and just pull it all the way through. Okay, so if you wanted to, if you're making the spiked bobble, then don't worry about this, of course. But here we have our little crocheted nose that we can sew on. I won't be sewing this onto the face when we get there. I'll be doing the spiked bobble, but I will show you exactly where to sew it on when we get to that point. All right, well, I guess we're ready to get going on the body. Okay, so we're using the blue yarn here. Now, really quick, before you get going on the body, I did forget to mention that you want to just cut off a little bit of extra yarn. You're going to be using that for detail when it comes to like eyelids and stuff like that, to give your guy a little bit more personality. Okay, so for the body, we're going to be starting with a magic loop method, or the chain 2 method again. We're going to be doing the magic loop, of course. And we're going to start by single crocheting 6 times into the second chain from the hook or into the magic loop, just like how we started the arm. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, now we're going to tie this guy a little bit tighter. Okay. All right, and just like everything else, we're working in the round, meaning that we don't turn. And we want to start into our first stitch that we made right here. It's kind of tough to get into that first one. It always is. And for round 2, we want to work an increase into each stitch all the way around. That means 2 single crochets. I mean, you probably know what an increase is if you've gotten this far in the pattern. I just get into, like, you know, I'm babbling when it comes to these patterns sometimes. I just kind of get into the repetition. But yeah, we're doing an increase into each stitch. And that's going to bring you up from 6 stitches to 12 stitches around. Okay, it's going to be the end of round 2 right here. You should have 12 stitches around. For round 3, it depends on if you're making the nose attached or if you want to sew the nose on. I'm going to be making the nose with a spiked bobble stitch, and I'll teach you that in a second. But if you're sewing the nose on, you're just going to be doing a single crochet into the first stitch and an increase into the next stitch. Okay, and you'll repeat that 6 times total to bring you up from 12 stitches to 18 stitches around. Okay, so that's what you'll do if you're sewing on the nose. If you're creating a spiked bobble, you're still going to do a single crochet in the first stitch and an increase in the next. And then now we want to do a spiked bobble stitch. Now for a spiked bobble stitch, it's basically a mini bobble stitch mixed with a mini picot. It's pretty difficult to do, but I have faith in you. I think you can do it. Okay, so first we want to do the first half of a mini bobble, which is what we did for the thumb. So we're going to yarn over, go into the next stitch, yarn over again, and pull a loop through. Then yarn over a third time and pull through 2 loops on the hook. Okay? Like you're doing half of a double crochet. Now you're going to repeat that one more time. Yarn over, go into the stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over and pull through 2. Okay. Now is the really tough part. We're going to do what I call a mini picot while our hook is still attached here. So for that, we want to chain 2, 1 and 2. You want to pull that second one a little tighter. And now into the back loop of that first chain that we made, okay, you want to get your crochet hook. This is really tough to do. You can see that back loop just barely right there. You want to take your crochet hook and use your fingernail to pry it open and get it in there, like when we were making the tooth. Okay, and now make a slip stitch. So we're going to yarn over and pull through that loop and another loop if you can. Again, this can be a little tricky. There we go. Okay, and now we want to do one more double crochet repeat for the mini bobble. So we yarn over, we go into the stitch, yarn over and pull a loop through, and then yarn over and pull through 2. And you should have 4 loops on the hook now, as you can see. And to finish this stitch up, we're going to yarn over and pull through all 4 loops on the hook. Boop, just like that. You see it makes like a little pointy bobble stitch. Okay, now we have our spiked bobble finished. Let's do an increase into the next stitch. Okay. And now you want to do a single crochet and then an increase. And you want to repeat that process until we get to the end of the pattern. I think that's 4 more repeats. So we do a single crochet, then an increase, and we want 3 more of those. So single crochet and then increase. Okay, and that's going to bring you up from 12 stitches to 18 stitches around. And you can see it saved us a bunch of time to do that spiked bobble instead of actively going around and sewing it on instead. Okay, so that's going to be the end of round 3. See, we got our little nose there. Okay, so for round 4, we're going to be making the ears. So the majority of round 4 is just single crocheting in each stitch around, but we want to add ears in 2 of the stitches. For the ears, we're going to chain 4. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then we're going to work into the back loops. Okay, we're going to skip the first chain, which you can kind of barely see right there. I'm going to skip that one, starting the second chain from the hook. Get your crochet hook in there. You want to do a slip stitch into the first chain. Once we get the crochet hook through all of those loops, I seem to have split my yarn a little bit. There we go. Okay, so you want to do a slip stitch in the first, and then a single crochet into the next two. So we're going to do it into the back loop. We want to do 2 single crochets. So 1 single crochet, the next one right here, another single crochet. Okay, you see it makes a little ear. Okay, now we want a single crochet into the next 9 stitches. So we go into this first stitch. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, and now we want to make another ear. For that second ear, we're going to chain 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, work into the back loop starting in the second chain from the hook. We're going to do a slip stitch into that first one, boop, then a single crochet into the next 2. Okay, so single crochet and another one right here, single crochet. That ear gave us a lot less trouble than the first one. Okay, now you want a single crochet into the last 9 stitches. 1, 2, and you should have 18 stitches around, not including the ears. We're actually going to be working around the ears in the next round. Okay. All right, so that's going to be the end of round 4. For round 5, we're going to be working a single crochet into each stitch around, working around these ears. So we want to pull that loop out to get around the ear, pull the ear up a little bit, and you want to take your crochet hook and get it into that first stitch. So you can see here's the ear, there's our first single crochet. So you can see it right there. You want to get your crochet hook into that first one, make sure the ear is on this side, and we want to just do a single crochet and make sure the ear is on the outside. Okay, and you want to just do a single crochet in each stitch and just make sure to work around those ears, and you should have 18 stitches around when we get to the end. Okay, so we're gonna work around this next ear coming up. Okay, pull that loop out, get into the next stitch. Okay, so let me just make sure you can see. Here's the ear. This is the next stitch in the round. Make sure it's on the outside and pull it tight. And then continue our single crochets. And you'll see I'll tweak them so that they're in the right positions when we finish this round. There should be 9 more stitches after that ear. Okay. 1. And here's our last one right there. 2. Okay, so let's just make sure we got these ears in the right position. I just kind of twist them so they're facing us. Okay, so you can see we got our nose and our 2 ears. All right. Okay, so that was the end of round 5. For round 6, we're just doing a single crochet into each stitch around. There should be 18 stitches around. So I love these single crochet rounds because they're kind of like a nice break in between these weird rounds where we add noses and ears and whatnot. I like making my pieces with as little pieces that you have to sew on as possible, because I hate sewing pieces together. But sometimes I realize that it's kind of a necessity. Okay. 1, and there we go. It's going to be 18 stitches around. Okay, and that'll be the end of round 6. Now before we start round 7, we're going to pull that loop out, and we're going to add our face. So first you want to add the eyes. Okay, so I use these little safety bead eyes, and I think these are a size 6mm. And what I want to do is I turn my piece upside down, and the first eye is going to go into, I believe, the second stitch right here. So if you find, we're working into round 3, which is the last round with increases, the same round as our nose, if you have your nose right there. So you can see this increase right before our nose. We want to put it into the right stitch on the increase, okay? So if you're going straight over from the nose, it's 2 stitches over. So it's 1, 2. Okay, we're just going to put in there. So you can see. Okay? And now our second eye is going to go into this stitch. The same kind of thing if you count over from the nose. Well, actually, if you count over from the nose, it's going to be 3 stitches over this time. So it's 1, 2, 3. It's going to be in that one right there. Okay, so this is a single crochet. It's going into a single crochet, not an increase. Okay. Just make sure we got the right spots. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, and you want to take this little locking mechanism. We'll lock it into the back. That was a very satisfying click. Both of those were. Sounded like I was cracking my back. All right. So that's going to be how you add the eyes. I'll show you how to add detail to the eyes as well. If you want, you can use this this extra yarn here that you had. And I like to use a sharper needle. Usually I use this bigger darning needle for sewing pieces together, but I like to use a really sharp needle for adding eye detail. So I'm going to thread the end. Okay. And we're just going to add a little bit of a squinty eye to his right eye here. And what I do is I take the end of our needle, and we're going to go into the one side of the eye, furthest side right here. Okay, and we're going to kind of go, let me get it really close here. We're going to go into the middle of this stitch. Okay, you don't want to go into where the eye is, but just slightly to the right into the middle of a stitch, which is why you like this, why I like to use this sharper needle. It helps me get into the center of stitches. Okay. And I just pull my needle off of that, and then I'm going to thread the other end of our yarn. Okay, we're going to go across the eye. We're going to give him like some bags under just one of the eyes, make him look a little crazy. We're going to go across the eye and go into the other side of the eye, into the center of that stitch right there. Okay. We're just going to pull it all the way through. You don't need to pull it too tight. You can see how that adds just a little bit of a bag under the eye, gives him a little bit of a personality. It looks a little crazier. And we can take these 2 ends and just knot them together on the inside. I use this same technique for making like angry eyes, for making sleepy eyes, pretty much any kind of emotion. It's best told through the eyes. So it's fun to add things to the eyes. Okay, so that's going to be how you add the eyes. Now next up, I want to add the lip and the tooth. So we're going to take our lip here, and we're going to use our larger darning needle now. And first you want to thread, you see how there's 2 long ends? This is the end that we cut and pulled through, and this is the end from the slip knot in the beginning of the stitch. So first we want to thread our smaller end here. Okay. And we want to go in just to the right of our left ear, or I guess that's our right ear, just right here under this eye. Okay? Slightly down from the ear. It's the first place I like to go. And then I take the needle out and I thread the other side of the lip. Okay? We're going to take it, we're going to go all the way across to the other side, right under the other eye. Okay? So right there. And we're going to go into that stitch. Okay, and pull it in through the stitch like that, and then go up through not the left stitch, but the stitch above the left stitch, right here. Okay? So we're going to go up to the left. Okay, now don't pull it all the way through. See how we have this little loop here? We want to use this loop. There we go. We want to use this loop to pull this knot through the hole. Okay? So just pull that knot through the hole just slightly. Okay? See how it's just like barely poking out there? and then pull it all the way through. And we want to go, oopsies, I pulled the knot back out. We want to go from the bottom. We want to go into the bottom loop of the lip. So here's our first chain right here. We want to go into the bottom of that one. Okay? And then back into the face, back into that stitch, and come out through the next stitch to the left. Okay? Pull it out. Now before I pull that tight, I want to make sure that that knot is through. So I'm going to take that loop again and re-pull that knot through like that. And then pull it tight. Okay, that loop is just being a little bit of a bugger, so let's just kind of make sure it's pulled tight. There we go. All right. Okay, and we're going to continue going into that to the back loop there. I'm on the wrong side of the lip. I want to be on actually this side, so I'm going to go under it. And we're going to go into the next chain. So you can see, if you pull it out a little bit, you can see that this is the next chain right here. Okay, you want to go into that next one, go into the stitch where you're coming out of, and then out of the next stitch over. We're going to keep doing that across into the next chain, down, and into the next loop across. Just pull it into the next chain, into the next stitch, and across. Okay, and then finally into this next chain, into the inside of the stitch right there. And you can see I have a few chains left over, and that's totally fine because we want this knot through the inside. So we're going to take the other end and just pull that knot through, okay? And then we can double knot these two ends. And you can see what the lip looks like in just a second. Just double knot those two ends. Cut it. All right. So the lips always look so empty until I add a tooth. I always am like, oh wow, that lip looks boring before I add a tooth. So let's add our tooth or a tongue or something like that. So the tooth, it's pretty easy. We're just adding it into the corner of the lip. I'm gonna add it to the opposite side of the squinty eye right here. I'm gonna thread one of these two ends. We're going to go into, over the top of the lip and down into the stitch. Okay, see where I did there? And you want to pull it through so that the knot of the tooth just barely pops through like that. Okay, thread that and then grab our next end of the tooth. We're going to go into the next stitch over right. Let's go like right there. Yeah, like right there. Yeah. Pull that through. And the same kind of dealio. You want to get that till the knot just barely pops out. There it is, see? Okay. And then we can just double knot. Look at, I kind of left some marks on my hand pulling that too tight. And we can just double knot these two ends. Okay. And cut the yarn, pull it to the side, pull it out a little bit, and you can see we kind of got a little snaggle tooth going on, which is exactly what we want. All right. Oopsies, looks like the inside of one of our eyes popped out. Let's do this one right here. Let's use another one of these locking things. This one looks a little too big. You see how the hole's a little too large. Let's use a new one. That sometimes happens. It's just, you know, manufacturer error. Gotta be careful. Okay, there we go. That one's pretty tight. All right, so that's how we're going to add our face. You can just tweak it around. We'll make that tooth a little bit pointier maybe, and play with that nose. And there we go. All right, so we got our face going on there. He looks grumpy as heck. He also looks like he's going to be fat, but we're actually going to give him a very skinny neck. Okay, so let's continue on the body. We can actually cut this end here because this is the tail end from the beginning of the head. We don't really need that. Okay. All right, so we are on round 7. For round 7, we're going to do a single crochet into the first 2 stitches. Into the first stitch, sorry. Single crochet into the first stitch, and then an invisible decrease into the next. Okay, remember that invisible decrease from the arm? We're going to go into the front loops of the 2 stitches. Pull a loop through, yarn over, pull a loop through 2. Okay? And you want to repeat that 6 times total. And that's going to bring you down from 18 stitches to 12 stitches. We're going to keep doing a single crochet and then a front loop, or the 2 front loops for an invisible decrease. There's our second repeat. Here's our third. Single crochet, 2 front loops, single crochet, 2 front loops. And yeah, we're just going to basically be continuing this on. And this is going to give you kind of like a skinny little neck going on here. Okay. Single crochet. And then finish up by doing these last 2 front loops. And that's going to finish you up for round 7. Okay, so now for our next round, I believe we're on round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're on round 8. For round 8, we're going to do a single crochet into the first 2 stitches. So 1 and 2. And then an invisible decrease in the next by going into those 2 front loops. Okay. Pull through. And then you want to repeat that 3 times total. 2 single crochets and then an invisible decrease. So let's do 2 more repeats of that. So 2 single crochets, 1 and 2. And then an invisible decrease. Going into those front loops, the next 2. Pulling through. Okay. Let's do 1 more repeat. 2 single crochets. 1 and 2. And then an invisible decrease. All right. And that should bring you down to 9 stitches around. Okay, so that's going to be the end of round 8. I'm going to pull it out a little bit, use the back of my hook to kind of pop his head back out. He had a little bit of a dent there. It's going to get a concussion if we're not careful. Okay, so you can kind of see how that head is coming together. All right. So for our next round, you just want to do a single crochet into each stitch around, and there should be 9 stitches around. Because this is kind of small, I usually hold my finger inside of the piece to hold it steady, but because the hole is a little small because we're using worsted weight yarn, I kind of hold it like this, okay? And I pull my crochet hook out to get a better angle. Okay, so we're just doing a single crochet into each stitch around, and there should be 9 stitches total. Okay. The most difficult part of this guy, I think, is the head. It's very tricky to get his head made. Just because you got to go like in and out, and it's all weird. It's like making 2 different pieces put together sometimes. But we're almost done now. Okay. Last stitch right here. You can see it kind of became deflated again. Let's go ahead and use the back of our thing to get in there. All right. And now before continuing into our next few rounds, getting into the actual body, not the head, let's stuff his head just a little bit. So you want to take your stuffing. You just need a little bit of stuffing. Yeah, that's probably good. Put the rest of that to the side. And you can use, let's see, you can use a pencil if you have one. I kind of don't. All I have right now is this glue stick here. Let's see if this glue stick will work. Yeah, that'll work. You just need something that'll fit into that head there. You just want to stuff that stuffing in. An eraser is the best thing to use here for stuffing. But, you know, times are tough. Sometimes I use the back of my crochet hook, but sometimes the back of your crochet hook can be a little too slippery. Okay, and I just want to stuff it enough just so it's like more of a solid head. Uh-oh. His eye's popping out, it looks like. There we go. Okay. There we go. He's got his head on. It's looking a little creepy, just the way we want our troll. All right. So let's continue on. For this next round, we're going to be increasing back up to 12 stitches. To do that, we're going to do the opposite that we did in our last decreasing round. We're going to do 2 single crochets, 1, 2, and then an increase. Okay. All right, and we're going to repeat that 3 times total. This is going to bring you up from 9 stitches to 12 stitches around. Okay, so do 2 single crochets, 1 and 2, and then an increase. Okay, last repeat, 2 single crochets, 1 and 2, and then our increase. Oopsies. There we go. Okay. And that should bring you up. There we go. That should bring you up from 12 stitches to 18 stitches. I mean, 9 stitches to 12 stitches. Oi. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Okay, so you can see his little neck there. Hello. Hello. All right. So for our next round here, we want to do a single crochet into our first stitch, and then an increase into the next. Okay? So a single crochet, then an increase, and you're going to repeat that process 6 times total. And that's going to bring you up from 12 stitches to 18 stitches again. Okay, so that's going to be single crochet and then an increase 6 times. So there's our second repeat. We're on our third. Okay. Single crochet, increase, just keep working our way around, back up to our 18 stitches around. Okay, and that's going to be our last stitch right there. Okay, so for our next 3 rounds, that's rounds 12, 13, and 14, 3 rounds total, we're just going to be doing a single crochet into each stitch all the way around. Okay, and you should have 18 stitches per round. So you just want to do 3 rounds of just single crochets. We're going to go ahead and get those 3 rounds going, and I'll be back in just a sec. Okay, and that's going to be the end of our last round of just the single crochets there. Now is where you would want to change colors if we're going to do crocheting with pants. So you can see here, this guy's got some pants on, and there's a little bit of a trick when it comes to the pants, specifically when it comes to the legs. There's a special way that I make my legs so that it looks like he's wearing pants on. And you can find out how to do, basically I'm doing half color changes within the bobble stitch. I teach how to do that in my video for bobble stitches. So if you want to add pants to them and you want to add a half bobble stitch, check out my video for bobble stitches. There should be a link here or in the description below for bobble stitches, and it'll help you out. And I'll explain the half bobble stitch color a little bit when we get to the bobble stitch here. But if you want to add pants on, what you want to do now is you want to change to brown. We are not adding pants on. We're going to add, that sounds funny to say, we're going to add a loincloth to our guy instead of pants. So I'm not going to be changing over to brown, but right now is when you'd want to change to brown. Okay, so for this round, we're going to do 4 stitches, 4 single crochets. Okay, so again, if you're doing pants, these 4 single crochets would all be all in brown. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and then we want to do a bobble stitch, not a mini bobble, but a full classic bobble stitch. For a classic bobble stitch, we're going to yarn over, go into the loop, pull 1 through, yarn over, and pull through 2. Okay, so it's pretty much just like a mini bobble, but we add one more step here. And if you were making these with pants on, you'd be doing these for the first and the third step of these double crochet parts in blue and the bottom in brown. So let me explain what that means. If you were making the pants on right now, it'd be blue to yarn over, go into the stitch, and pull through with brown. Okay, but that's not brown, that's blue, of course. And then yarn over with blue and pull through 2 with blue. Again, I explained this a lot better in that video for bobble stitches, wherever. I think you can also go to clubcrochet.com/bobble for that. Okay, so we're doing a classic bobble though, so we have 2 repeats. Let's do 2 more. Okay, so that's 1 more, and 2. Okay, so you can see for a classic bobble, it's going to be a little bit bigger. You want to have 5 loops on the hook when you are ready to pull through. And we're going to yarn over and pull through all the loops on the hook to finish the bobble stitch up. And we want 4 single crochets between bobble stitches, so let's do 4 more single crochets. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and let's do another bobble stitch. We're going to yarn over, go into the stitch and pull 1 through, yarn over again and pull through 2. Okay, and we're going to repeat that 4 times total. So there's our second repeat. There's our third repeat. And finally our 4th repeat. Let me redo that 4th repeat. It was a little too loose for me. Okay, there we go. All right, so that's going to be how to add our little feet, bobble stitch feet. And you want to finish up this round by doing a single crochet into the last, I believe it's 8 stitches maybe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and yeah, I was right, 8. Okay, you want to do those last 8 single crochets. And that's going to be how to add our feet. Now, next up, we want to sew on our arms over our feet right there. For that, this is optional, of course, but you can use a pipe cleaner on the inside of the arms to make it more shapeable. So what I do is I fold my pipe cleaner in half and cut it. And then we're going to fold this half in half. Like that, and cut it in half. Okay, so we cut our pipe cleaner in half twice, and now we want to fold this last half in half and then twist it. Okay, you want to leave just a little bit of a round circle on the end there. Twist it until you have just these 2 little edges on the end there. Okay, now we'll take our piece and we're going to place this, I like to place them to the right and to the left of where the feet are. So like right there, okay, and just a few stitches up. So let's go like right in here. Okay. And once you have these 2 edges sticking out, you can twist them on the inside and it'll make sure that it doesn't come out. All right. And now we want to sew on the arms. Oh wait, let me show you where to put the other arm too. Let's do it again with this other half of a pipe cleaner. Just twist it. Okay. We're going to place the other one on the other side. Right, let's say like right here. Looks pretty good. Yeah. Okay. They look really low, but just trust me. I think that's the best place to put them. I've made quite a few of these guys. All right, and now over these 2 pipe cleaners, we want to sew on the arms. So we're going to take our arm here, and we want to thread the inside part. I'm going to be using this thicker needle here. I'm going to thread the inside. See how there's 2 ends, one coming out from the inside and one coming from the outside. Thread the inside one on a needle, and then thread it where you put the arm on. So like in either one of those 2 spots. where you stuck that pipe cleaner in, and make sure it's on the outside of the pipe cleaner like that. You want to make sure the thumbs are facing inwards towards the body. Okay? And now all we have to do is sew this on. Don't forget, before you finish sewing on these arms, you need to stuff it. So just don't forget that. Trust me, it's silly to have a not fully stuffed arm. So all we have to do now is just sew it together, and basically we just go around this pipe cleaner edges and sew on the arm. See, so I'm going around the next stitch, in through the next stitch, and we'll just keep going around like that. Okay. Go up. See, he got stuck on his big nose. Let's thread this again. See how I'm going down through the loops on the arm and then up through where we want to come out. Let's see, count over 1, 2, 3. Yep, that's right. That seems right to me. Okay, see, I have just a few more here. Now, before I finish it up, you might need a small stick for this. So I like using like kind of a skewer here. And we'll take our stuffing. You just need a little bit, like just that much stuffing. And we want to stuff it up into the arm before we finish sewing it shut. You can also use like maybe a toothpick for this, or a pencil. The edge of the pencil might work. Okay, you just want it enough, just a little bit, see? Okay. Sew these last 2 parts on. There we go. Go this stitch. All right. Okay. And then I can just double knot these 2 ends. Okay, so you can see we got our arm sewn on there. Let's double knot these 2 ends. And we can cut them loose. Tie it tight so it doesn't come loose. All right. Cut the inside, and I'll show you how it. So now you can see how that pipe cleaner, see how it makes it, so you can shape it however you want it to be. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and sew this other arm on, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I finished sewing on our arms. Now let's get back to crocheting our body, and we're at just coming to the end now. So for our, I think it's our second to last round, we're going to be decreasing down from 18 stitches down to 12 stitches. And to do that, we're going to single crochet 1 into the first stitch. And then we're going to do a decrease, a sharp decrease, not an invisible decrease where we're going to those front loops. We want it really sharp to pull it in really tight so it lays flat on the bottom. To do that, we're going to go into the next stitch, like we're going to do a single crochet. And then go into the next stitch, so 1 more stitch over, pull another loop through, and take that second loop and pull it through the 2 on the hook like that. It's kind of like a slip stitch 2 together. And you want to repeat that process of doing a single crochet and then a decrease 6 times total. So let's do it again. Single crochet, and then a sharp decrease. 1, 2, 3. Okay? Single crochet, sharp decrease. 1, 2, 3. And this is going to bring you down from 18 stitches back down to 12 stitches. I almost said back downtown. I don't know why. All right. And we're just at a last couple of repeats here. Single crochet, and then a sharp decrease. Okay. now we're going to stuff it up just a little bit more with our stuffing here. And let's go with like half of that amount. Okay, you just want to stuff it here before the end, because it's easier to stuff it now than it is after you finish that part up. And one more thing to do before we get to our last round there is we want to add, I always add a belly button onto our piece. And I don't know, I just think it's funny. So I thread a little bit of our blue yarn. And we want to, so basically we want to just sew an X right here between the legs and up above. Okay, so like right there. Go like that, go across and up, and then down through the next side right there. So basically just sewing an X. See, it's very, very, very subtle, but I don't know. It's kind of like, I guess it's kind of like a signature now. I always sew an X onto the tummies. I just think it's funny. All right, we're just going to double knot that on the inside. Okay, and we're just going to stuff these two ends in. All right, so now is where you'd want to go if you want to make it into a finger puppet. See, bet you didn't know that guy was a finger puppet the whole time. Haha! If you want to make him into a finger puppet, now is when you want to start doing that. And you can check out how to crochet it into a finger puppet from clubcrochet.com/fingerpuppet, I think it is. I might put a link in the description below for that, for the tutorial for that too. But yeah, now is when you'd want to change over if you want to start doing a finger puppet. Go check out that video. But we're not making a finger puppet. We're just going to make them just regular. So to do that, we're just going to do a decrease, a sharp decrease like we did in our last round, into each stitch around. So that's 6 times. So we're just going to go in and do a sharp decrease 6 times. Okay. 2, 3, 4, 5. There's our last one, and 6. There we go. Okay, and we can cut the yarn and just pull it all the way through like that. All right, so now we want to stuff him just a little bit more, just finish stuffing him up. This is our last chance to stuff him. Okay. And let's see, I just want to make sure I got enough stuffing in him. Yeah, that seems about right. And we can thread this end on a needle. It's funny that I'm using a glue stick to stuff them closed. Just whatever's around, I guess. And we're just going to sew it closed. And to sew it closed, I usually do a kind of like an asterisk. So I go 3 stitches up, 1, 2, 3, into the top of that, and then out through, not the third, but one more from that. I call it 0 stitch. Pull that through, then go into the next stitch, cross, pull that tighter through, next stitch, cross. Okay, and then down through the last stitch right there. And we're going to go up through the back, pull it tighter, and then go back down through the bottom. Okay. And we can cut the bottom right there. And he's pretty much done, except for you might be able to tell he's a little naked. So let's give him a loincloth. Give him a little bit of clothing here. You can see his little butt. Okay, so for a loincloth, we're going to be using our brown yarn, and this is our last thing that we need to crochet. Okay, so for our loincloth, we want to have our brown yarn here, and you want a bit of an end because you're going to use it to sew it onto the body. And you want to start by making a slip knot. Get our crochet hook in there, and we're just going to chain 3. So we're just going to 1, 2, and 3. And starting in the second chain from the hook, we're just going to single crochet into each stitch across. So we're just going to go 1 and 2. Pretty easy. Now we want to turn our piece and chain 1. And we're going to work into the back loops only, meaning the loops furthest away from us, okay? So we're just going to go into that back loop right there. And we're going to single crochet into both stitches, I'm sorry. So we're going to single crochet 1 and then single crochet into the next stitch right there, 2, okay? 1, 2. All right, to finish this up, we're going to turn. We're not going to chain for this last piece, and we're going to work into the front loop only, meaning the loop closest to you. We're going to skip that first stitch, so skip this stitch right there, and into the second stitch right there, we want to work only into that front loop. See how I'm working in that front loop there? And we want to do a single crochet into that last front loop. All right, so you can see our little loincloth, and now we can actually cut the yarn. We want a decent amount of yarn there. Cut it. And we can chain 1 and just pull it all the way through. Okay. And now let's sew it onto the body. So we'll take our body here and we want to thread both of the ends on darning needles. We're going to start with the tail end. So if you look at our piece, let's start with this tail end. Thread it on our darning needle, and you want to place it right in front, right like that, okay? And what I like to do is I like to go right to where the leg is, okay? So right there on the leg, and then up through the next stitch over, okay? Like that, and then back into the same stitch that you just first went into, and out the other one, so you're kind of making a little loop. Okay, like so. Okay, there we go. And then you want to go across the back, and you want to go into like just directly on the back, and then out through the next stitch over. Okay, and that's going to be the end of that side. Now we want to thread the other end. And you want to do the same thing on this other side. So you want to go into that stitch and come out through the next one over. Then around and out. Okay, so you've got a little loincloth there. Then you want to go across the back and into where you came out with the last piece, right there, and then out through where you went in with the last side. Okay, like so. And then we can just double knot these two. Get our end out there. 1 and 2. It'd be fun to to embroider a little butt on this guy. That'd be funny. And then we could just cut the two ends like so. And the last thing that I like to do for these loincloth guys is that I like to take my needle and I like to split the yarn at the end to make it a little bit more frayed. I want it to be afraid of me. Ha ha ha, I'm stupid. There we go. All right, and that's going to be how to crochet and add on your little loincloth there. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like this video and want to get more crochet goblin-like characters, check out my Goblinoid pattern bundle at clubcrochet.com/goblinoid and use the code GERBLIN, GERBLIN, at checkout, and you'll get the cost of this pattern off of the full bundle, so it's like you never had to pay for this pattern originally. Thanks again for watching. Pasta la pizza, and happy hooking. Bye.